Welcome back, everybody. This is QuestionMarc,
And I'm Ame.
and we are back again with another Commander tier list. This time it's for the Final Fantasy VII Commander deck.
That's right. Final Fantasy VII is the most popular game in the entire series. You might
Mm-hmm.
even call it the flagship game. It has so many spin-offs. It has so many spin-offs and content related to it that, well, it feels a little almost redundant to introduce these people.
Cloud Strife, Sephiroth, Tifa, Aerith, these are some of the most iconic and recognizable characters in Final Fantasy. Even if you've never played any of these games, you probably know some of these characters.
If aught else, you know who Sephiroth is, you know why he's famous, you know what his music sounds like, and if you don't, go listen to it, educate yourself.
Sephiroth. You know,
It'll melt your face off.
it's Yasunori Mitsuda, the One-Winged Angel, one of the greatest songs in video game history.
Yes. Possibly the greatest in all of boss fight history.
It's certainly in the front running.
Like, if you're not getting better than One Winged Angel, you're not making it.
No, it is the gold standard for sure, and especially considering it was on the PlayStation, amazing. But we're here today to talk about this commander deck and the legendary creature cards that are in it that could be in the 99, but also can be your commander. How good are they at those things?
Let's find out. It looks like we're starting strong with Sid.
Yeah, so I have a list that I wasn't able to narrow it down to just the Final Fantasy characters in this list, but this is the closest I can get. So we have Sid Free Flyer Pilot.
Oh, yes. Sids are always fun in Final Fantasy because each one is a little different. They're always some kind of adventure, whether they're leaning towards mechanical or magical. And this version of Sid is, I think he's supposed to be like a middle-aged guy who smokes. He's really cynical. This guy wanted to be Midgar's first astronaut.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, you want to read the card?
Yes, that's 1/1/1 and a white. Equipment and vehicle spells you cast cost one less to cast. Yes, they do. Jump. During your turn, Sid has flying.
Nice.
This reflects his. Even though in this game he's a pilot and a mechanic, mechanically he's kind of reflecting the Dragoon.
Right.
The Dragoon class ability. That's why he
Right.
has fly, and that's why his favored weapon is a lance, as you can see.
In fact, there are going to be a lot of Dragoons across the Final Fantasy set that all have that during your turn they have flying things, so keep an eye out for that.
Alright, for 2 and a tap, return target equipment or vehicle card from your graveyard to your hand. This guy loves his equipment, and he wants to be well equipped. I'm Sid, that's who the hell I am. Now just let me handle it.
So this guy actually reminds me a lot of SRAM, and whether he is going in a SRAM deck or SRAM is going in his deck, probably. I mean, you could do either one. But like, look at this guy. Compare him here.
Oh yeah, I could see these two definitely going off to play in the lab.
Oh yeah. Okay, so.
In fact, SRAM here looks a little bit like the Final Fantasy IV version of Sid.
Oh. I mean, we're talking a mono white 2-mana 2/2 that draws you a card when you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle, and this guy makes equipments and vehicles cost one less as a 2-mana 2/2. They're very similar, and SRAM is one of the most popular cards in equipment decks, in vehicle decks. Pretty good commander, but now, I mean, you're basically going to be putting these two together a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Except he can fly, and he can reanimate your equipment or vehicles, which to me kind of implies that
He
he's
fixes
fixing
stuff.
them. Yeah.
He fixes stuff.
Yeah.
That's what Sids always do.
So, where to rank him then? He's at least cool.
Yeah, he's cool.
I think he's solidly in cool. I'm a little bit shy of calling him exciting because he can gain flying, but he's kind of shrimpy. He makes your equipment and vehicles cost less, which is nice, but it doesn't What is that going to amount to? Is he a mono white Voltron kind of commander? Maybe he reanimates things, but then he's not attacking. So, is it going to lead to a quick victory? Is it going to lead to a particularly unique deck? I don't know, but he's pretty good at what he does.
At the very least, he's going to be. At the very least, this guy's a good bet.
Mm-hmm. And he'll have homes, either with SRAM in the 99 of him, or him in the 99 of SRAM, or in a lot of other equipment decks. And
I can tell you that any of the Sids would be in heaven if they ever found themselves an Avishkar.
Oh, yeah. And actually, speaking of the Sids, one other note about those, we saw in some of the previews that there is a Sid card for every version of Sid that there ever was.
15 Sids!
Yep, they're different arts, but they're the same card, and you can play as many of them in a deck as you want. So this one, being in the Commander set, actually got his own unique card. And unfortunately, the other Sids are all white-blue, so you actually can't play 15 Sids in the mono-white Sid Commander deck.
But
you can do the other way around.
Oh,
that's
yes.
a little silly.
Oh, yes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The 15s, you can have all 15 Sids in one deck because there isn't a limit on how many of those particular Sid you can have.
I hope that this doesn't come up with, it came up with 42 cards. Well, there.
Sid Dagger. All right. Here we go. Sid, Timeless Artificer. 15 Sids. Oh, hey, look, there's the Final Fantasy VII one I was just telling you about.
Oh, this one?
No, the one on the right.
Wait, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I was hearing that they started with 2, so I was thinking it went 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's 14, 2, 3, 4. What is with the numbering?
Roman numerals, I tell ya.
Okay. Well, regardless, this is all very interesting, and that means that he's in here twice.
There's our Sid.
Yeah. Okay. So that said, the next one... Now,
Elena, the Turk recruit.
I haven't played Final Fantasy VII myself, really, and so I've never heard of this character.
Well,
have you?
I needed a reminder. I can tell you that, let me see, if I can remember correctly, the Turks are basically the Shinra company's police force. I guess you could say they're kind of like the Pinkertons.
Yeah, I remember hearing about Reno. Or Reno?
Reno.
Okay.
I guess it would be Reno since it's a Japanese pronunciation, but I call him Reno.
I think it's spelled like Reno, but I've heard people pronouncing him Reno for years. So, in any case, what's weird about this to me is that is this mono white assassin?
Yes.
Okay. Want to read it then?
When Elena enters, you return target not assassin historic from your graveyard to your hand. That's artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. And whenever you cast a historic spell, you put a 1/1 counter on Elena. Looks like talking alone won't cut it. You're going to have to feel some pain.
I mean, okay, there's something that I like about her vibe here. Like, I don't know, a lady who can, like, knock somebody's block off is always going to be kind of cool to me. And yet, she's doing a decent thing of, like, kind of getting you back a dead historic card once when she enters. And she gets a little bit bigger when you cast a historic spell. And it's permanently bigger, sure. But she starts as a 3-mana 1/4 with no abilities that help her in combat, or no ward or anything like that. No flying, no vigilance, lifelink.
She's tough because the Turks are an elite group, but she's still the newest member.
Gosh, okay. So I honestly just don't think this card's very good.
Me either.
Yeah.
Not as a commander, anyway.
No, definitely not as a commander. Honestly, if you want to build this as a commander, if you're like the #1 simp of Elena or something like that, have at her. But you're going to have a hard time. I'm going to put her in lame. But, more power to you. If you like Elena and you want to try to make her work, great. I'm happy for you. But she doesn't seem particularly rewarding. That said, the next one, oh my gosh. The next one is the protagonist.
Cloud, ex-soldier. 2, red, green, white. with haste, and when Cloud enters, attach up to one target equipment you control to it. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens.
And he's a human soldier mercenary. Okay.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense, honestly. Like, it it would be kind of weird if being even an ex-member of Soldier, he wasn't a soldier. But he is a mercenary. That is much more his role, at least in like the first half of the game.
Yeah.
And he's
a
is
sellsword.
5 mana for a 4/4, which, fails the vanilla test, but the vanilla test is just the starting point. He's got haste, which makes up for it a bit, and then the other 2 abilities more than make up for it.
Yep.
When he enters, you get to attach an equipment for free. So, what's an example of an equipment that you might want to get around the equip cost on? Well, I mean, you could do your swords and stuff like that, or let's see, what if there was a really big hammer?
Yep, that
okay,
certainly.
Okay.
Yep.
What if there was an English really big hammer? Colossus hammer. It costs 8 to equip, which is just too much. So with Cloud here, it's free.
Makes sense that he can wield the Buster Sword. I'm pretty sure he can handle this.
Awkwardly, they have not spoiled what the Buster Sword does yet.
Give it time. I bet it synergizes well.
Oh, yeah. Well, it synergizes more so with the main set Cloud. Because the main set Cloud is 2 mana and white, and then the Buster Sword is 3 mana. So we don't know exactly what it does yet, but it's probably going to be good. Whereas Colossus Hammer is going to be one of the best possible things for Cloud X Soldier to pick up. Because then you'll definitely draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control, so you'll draw a card, and you'll definitely make 2 treasure tokens. Also, all the main characters, the heroes from Final Fantasy VII, they tried to sneak in a 7 somewhere on each of them, and this is Cloud's.
Yep.
So he's gonna draw you cards. He's gonna get around the equip cost. Now, granted, that's just the one time he gets around the equip cost. But he's going to draw you cards repeatedly. He's probably going to make you treasures. Your deck is probably going to be a lot based around equipments that give 3 or more power, so that he hits that 7 mark every time. I think that this commander is good, but not exciting, honestly.
Also, I've got something I'd like to get on my soapbox about here.
Okay, go for it.
I am so annoyed with how Cloud tends to get characterized outside of his own game. Outside of his own game, he's, very stern, very taciturn, very, I'm so above it all, I'm gonna go brood now. And in the game, he tries to be that, but his facade keeps cracking. You can see it in his dialogue, you can see it in his dialogue options, you can see it in certain reactions. This guy is a dork who was trying to be cool, and then they went and made him into a dork's idea of a cool guy, and I think he's more interesting as a dork trying to pretend that he's a cool guy.
You know what?
His whole character development comes from loosening up a little bit, from accepting that he's not the cool guy he wishes he was, but he is himself, and that's enough.
So it sounds like you're telling me that the actual Cloud is a little bit more like a Thomas Anderson, whereas a lot of people keep trying to portray him as a Neo.
Yes. And I was also mad. This is the one thing that made me mad with Dissidia.
Oh?
I feel like Squall and Cloud got their personalities switched.
Oh, in that game at least.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that said, I think I'm ready to move on here to... What is that guy? Haidiger or something like that?
Oh my god, his name is Haidiger.
Okay. So, want to read him for us?
Yes. 3, 1 white mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets X plus 0 until end of turn, where X is the number of soldiers you control. Okay, soldiers matter. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens equal to the number of opponents who control more creatures than you. Get that...
Interesting.
Get that private army, I guess.
Okay, so The interesting thing to me though is that his second ability is one of White's classic catch-up abilities. And not to be confused with the mustard ability. Um, he will make you tokens, but only if someone else has more than you. So that's kind of frustrating because if
Means
that's
you're always playing catch up.
if the main thing that you're doing is making lots of soldier tokens and then buffing them, which of course he is, then the way that you win is by exceeding the number of soldiers that your opponents control and then hitting them with those. But Haidiger will stop helping you when you reach the point that you could turn it from a good strategy to a victory. So it sounds like the key to this deck is going to be soldier synergies. It's going to be cards that give soldiers +1/+1, cards that give soldiers vigilance, first strike, things like that are going to be key so that your army of 1/1s can catch up to whatever your opponents are doing.
It's giving great onboarding program, not going to help you when you struggle.
Yeah.
Or like easy
Mm-hmm.
recruitment, terrible onboarding, not going to help you when you struggle.
Or,
I'm glad he dies in the first disc.
uh-oh, spoilers again.
It's in the first disc. No one cares.
Okay, true. Um,
This is not. This is a. I just got back with popcorn spoiler.
so also I've seen a number of Commander players, even just recently, a game I recently played where someone was kind of the threat first and they lost because of it. Because they came out, they started making some tokens, they had a pretty good army, and then a board wipe happened, and they never caught back up again after that. So the strange thing might be you might actually want to save Heidegger until, like, I don't know, a board wipe has happened, or
Actually, does this guy die in the first disc? I don't even remember.
I don't know. But my worry is that if you get this guy out as fast as possible, like maybe one turn early with an Arcane Signet or something like that, and then you start making soldier tokens, that you're just going to have an army of soldiers that get +1/+0, and your opponents are going to be very scared of you, and they're going to wipe you out because you were the threat first.
I guess there is that, but the upside here is that Heidegger can help you catch up quickly.
Yeah, true. And of course, you can always play your token doublers in here, but that means that you'll build up your army even faster, but you'll stop building more onto it soon.
You could even kind of have a bit of a dummy run where you try to bait people into playing their board wipes early on.
Maybe.
It's a
Ooh,
thought.
or you could be playing your Teferi's Protection and your Flawless Maneuver and stuff like that to bait board wipes, and just give all your stuff indestructible in response, stuff like that. So Heidegger has some potential. Um, so that's kind of a tough question. Then,
I'm
is he cool or is he questionable? I'm kind of leaning towards questionable.
at the very. I'd put him either at the top of questionable or at the bottom of cool.
Yeah, honestly, it's hard for me to look at a like CEO and say you're cool. So that's going to be the
Yeah.
tipping point for me for putting him down
He is
in
well.
questionable.
He is pretty well dressed though.
Okay.
I mean, that's a power suit. Take notes.
Then we've got Avalanche of Sector 7, which I was a little skeptical that they were going to get a card for themselves, but they did.
I was half expecting each one to get a card, or at least, shoot, what is the girl in the middle's name?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm not surprised these guys got their own card. I was half expecting them to get their own cards.
Okay. Well, want to read it for us?
All right, that's 2 in red with Menace. Avalanche of Sector 7's power is equal to the number of artifacts your opponents control. All right. Whenever an opponent activates the ability of an artifact they control, Avalanche of Sector 7 deals a damage to that player.
Okay, and I love seeing the creature type Rebel here. It's a pretty rare one, but we did have some support for it in like some of the recent Phyrexia sets, like March of the Machine and All Will Be One. Like the 4 Mirrodin ability is going to be pretty good alongside these guys. Um, and how good are they? Well, they've always got 3 toughness, so they're a little vulnerable to the typical like lightning bolt style effect.
Of course, they've only got 3 toughness. There's only 3 of them, and these guys do. I mean, they do not come with us on the journey.
Yeah, they don't make it to the 3rd disc.
I think they're alive. I don't remember. I think they're alive, just not with the group.
Oh, hey, here's hoping, you know. Um, but having menace is always good on a creature that's going to get into combat. And so for a 3 mana creature with menace, you want it to be at least 3 power and try to get up higher than that. And to do that, your opponents have to have some artifacts. So you got to look at like what are the odds of that happening. Every commander deck game, you're going to face at least a few artifacts from your opponents. At least a few. But
So what? Maybe 3.
you want there to be more. You want there to be lots more.
So unless you've got a way to give people artifacts,
You do. There are ways. You got to find them. You got to put them in this deck. And then if your opponents actually use the artifact's abilities, then they take damage. There are ways of giving your opponents treasures. There are ways of giving your opponents other artifacts. I can't even think of them off the top of my head because this is such a like out of left field ability. And to do it in a mono red deck seems even a little bit more difficult. But the reward is you ping people every time, and you make your slightly evasive commander a little bigger.
so group hug red.
I'd say the old bait and switch. You give your opponent stuff until you're ready to kill them. um, okay. If this card was like a notch or 2 better somehow, like it dealt damage to each opponent, or I don't know.
I think this is a
It's
solid questionable.
I was gonna rate it better than that. I'm almost willing to put him up in exciting, almost. It's just that how many cards out there actually do give your opponents artifacts? Not that many. I don't think.
I think it should go into questionable then.
Well, I think that in a typical game of Commander, if you don't build around it at all, I think it's going to be a 3 mana 3/3 with Menace that pings your opponents occasionally. And I think that's solid. But if you build around it, and you will, then you're giving your opponents some artifacts to hurt themselves even more. I think that makes it better, and I think it'll encourage you to build something more unique. And I really like that.
Plus, that's commander damage they're pinging them with.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Well-
Sorry, commander damage, it only counts combat damage.
Ah.
So this bit, yes, will apply to combat, or to commander damage. This bit won't. But still, these guys are a lot more useful than I thought they would be. I thought they'd be like little peons that would, red shirts and die easy or something, but no.
Well, they did get an expanded role in the remake.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in the remake. I haven't played it, though. I don't know a lot of it.
I'm not sure I want to. I think that the PS1 version's good enough for me, thanks.
Okay. So now we're on to this weirdo.
Ah, yes. The ones
who
that...
we're talking about today.
XIII, Fortune Teller, 3 with red. Lucky Slots. At the beginning of each combat on your turn, scry 1, then exile the top card of your library. You may then play that card this turn. When you exile a card this way, target creature you control gets X plus 0 until end of turn, where X is that card's mana value.
Okay. Wait, the flavor text.
I'm friend to one and all, thanks to my crystal ball. I'm friend to one and all, thanks to my crystal ball.
And he's wearing a crown, carrying a, megaphone, and standing on top of, I guess, a Moogle?
A highly stylized Moogle, since technically there aren't Moogles in this one.
Okay. I mean, it says Cat Moogle, so... Okay. That doesn't need to be on screen. I thought I turned that off. Oh, well. So... How good is he? 4 mana 3/3, obviously it's not really a beatdown commander. It does trigger at the beginning of combat. You always get to scry 1 and then exile the top card of your library. So you have some control over it. And then, let's see, target creature you control gets plus X plus 0 until end of turn. So that can be good. That means that you can have a creature that has like first strike or double strike or flying or menace and trample and all kinds of stuff like that. And then Kate Sith can shout through the loudspeaker at him and give him like +7 or something. So that'll be cool. And you'll have scryed one, and you'll still be able to cast that spell this turn. That's effectively mono red card draw whenever you can exile and then play that card.
I gotta say, I love that a character whose mechanics are again based on gambling is in red, because honestly, gambling seems like a red thing.
Oh, very much so. Um, so, is this card particularly good? Well, I think the optimal scenario for this would be, yes, you're playing with some other creatures for him to buff that already have good abilities, then they suddenly have good power. But then to get the most bang for your buck from that ability, you want to have high mana value cards.
You
But
want to hook
then,
some whales.
yes, but then you don't want to have to pay like 7 mana for your 7 mana spells. Um, Wait a second, this is an artifact creature.
Yep.
What the heck? Why are... Oh,
Well,
you
yeah,
were saying.
because it's a robot.
Kate Sith is a robot. I never knew that until today. Um, okay, but this is the second time that I'm bringing up Frogmere Enforcer as one of the better cards in a deck like this. That its mana value is 7, but you're never going to pay 7 for it. This is the kind of card that you want to try to find a lot of for a Kate Sith deck, where you can get +7 power, and then you can cast the spell for, like, next to nothing.
You want your affinities, you want your prototypes, go nuts.
You want to find, I don't know, Convoke, anything Undaunted, any ability where you can pay less than the amount written in the top right corner, and you're going to be golden. How many of those are you going to find in mono red? I don't know. Honestly, in the end, for not being that great at boosting itself,
Questionable?
yeah, I'm putting it
This
in
could
questionable.
work, but you gotta work it to make it work.
I mean, who's surprised though to hear that like the Gambler is not a safe bet? Now Tifa, uh, Tifa is next on our list.
Roll your tongues back into your heads.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So, what do I think about Tifa? All right. So, moving on.
One
Okay,
red,
go ahead and read
green,
it.
white with melee. That is, whenever this creature attacks, it gets 1/1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked this combat. Whenever one or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deals combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase of your turn, there's an additional combat phase after this phase.
Okay.
So, she attacks. If you're attacking all 3 players, then she's going up to 7/7, and then you're getting that second round of combat.
And while technically there are ways that you could trigger more than one additional combat with this, like having double strike, for instance, she would deal combat damage to a player and then deal combat damage to a player again, and it would still be the first combat. You don't get to untap in between the 2 additional combats that she would make. So only like vigilance creatures would be able to get in. But also there are things like Strionic Resonator and Lithoform Engine that can copy her ability if it triggers to get you the same kind of thing, extra combats, because as long as it triggers during the first one, you can get multiple extras. But once again, you still don't untap between them. So, and you also want to be playing probably a lot of other
It does say
cards.
untap all creatures you control. That
Yes.
would include Tifa.
Oh, yes, it definitely does. But that means if you put, say, 3 of this ability on the stack at the same time, it will generate an additional combat, untap now, generate an additional combat that will come after that one, still untap now, and generate a third combat after
What?
that
No,
one, and
it
untap
wouldn't.
now, and then you'll go through the actual combats. That's the problem, is that it will generate 3 future phases, and you untap all of them while you're creating the phases, not in between the phases actually happening. Okay? At least that is how the rules work. Maybe I'm doing a poor job of explaining it. But I do know that that is unfortunately a fact that you untap the creatures when the ability resolves, not when the combat that you generate is over.
Ah.
So I have heard though there are other ways of getting additional combats with her, but I don't remember what they are. You can look them up online; they exist. And oh, and if you do have multiple combats, by the way, her melee ability boosts her until end of turn, not till the end of combat. So she'll already be a 7/7 when the second combat starts, and then she'll probably get another +3/+3. So I'd say that the main trick here is just that you want
That's
to
combo
play.
punches for you.
Oh, heck yeah. She's rapid fire punching you like Ip Man. I think that part of the key is going to be cheap flyers that will allow you to consistently hit all of your opponents, or at least attack all of your opponents at the same time without fear of blocking and things like that. So, one of the, like, maybe less known cards that I really like for this deck is Signal Pest. Signal Pest is a 1 mana artifact creature pest from Mirrodin Besieged. That's a 0/1 with Battle Cry. When it attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and it can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. So it basically has flying, but only on the attack.
It has falling with style.
Yeah. So it comes out on turn 1, no matter what color mana you start with, it can do that. And then it can start attacking an opponent for, 0 damage on its own, but it's hard to block. And then when you get Tifa out, now you've easily attacked a second player, and it will buff Tifa, making her more likely to hit her 7 target. And then you're also playing lots of like 1 mana flyers and 2 mana flyers and stuff like that, so that you're getting the full +3, you're getting the extra combats every turn. The melee's triggering multiple times, the battle cry's triggering multiple times, all the buffs happening all the time in a 3-color deck. Honestly, she has such potential. I haven't even cracked all of it yet.
Oh, look, there's my soapbox again. I'm gonna go hop up on it for a second here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I don't know if this debate is still going on. I kind of doubt it. But, there's the whole question of, does Cloud end up with. Does Cloud rightly belong with Tifa or Aerith? Personally, Tifa wins. I mean, yeah, she is the Victoria's childhood friend and all that, but she knew who Cloud was the whole time. She could see who he was past who he was pretending to be, and she swore to stuck with him through him no matter what. That scene where Cloud gets Mako poisoning and, well, goes into a vegetative state and Tifa swears to take care of him forever, I cried.
Aw.
Hard. Yeah. I think that she, and I also think that she canonically ended up with Cloud. Aerith around Cloud was more like, you remind me of my boyfriend, but I can kind of tell that's not who you really are. You're a little weird. I want to know who you are when you're not masking, bro.
Okay. Well, and I've seen Advent Children, and I know that, Cloud and Tifa are still really close at that point. But Aerith, everybody knows that Aerith dies in the story. And while she does kind of continue to have a presence...
I don't even remember when I was spoiled for Aerith dying.
Oh, God. Yeah, like 97 or something?
I do not... Like I said, I don't remember... I cannot remember a time when I didn't know this.
Okay.
In fact, I actually saw Advent Children well before I played Final Fantasy VII. And... I think if I watched Advent Children again, I would be really angry.
Maybe.
I'll try it again sometime. I'll tell you how that goes.
So next on our list, though, is Vincent, Vengeful Atoner.
Vincent, Edgelord.
Yes.
2 red, Menace. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on Vincent. Okay. Chaos. Whenever Vincent deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent if Vincent's power is 7 or greater. Alright, so you gotta deal combat damage to players, get your flyers in there, get Vincent beefed up, and then hit one person and then accidentally hit everybody else as collateral damage.
So, would you say that Vincent has the soul of a lone wolf?
I would, yes.
Okay, because I see this guy as a commander, as being a, mono-red Voltron. He's a 3 mana 3/3, so instantly passes the vanilla test, menace on top of it, and then he grows whenever you hit a player. Granted, it only triggers once per opponent per combat, but you can attack 3 opponents, and it will trigger for each player who is hit.
Yep.
So you can get 3 counters in a turn. You can even get more if you've got double strike. Because those are separate instances of dealing combat damage to a player. So get your double strike on, get your, melee on basically again. And then he's got one more ability. So...
Oh, did I punch you? Well, I also punched the other two.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the question. Okay, and, alright, here, pop quiz. Does the Chaos ability deal commander damage to the other players?
No, it does not.
No, it does not. Because commander damage is only combat damage, and combat damage is only your power being done to the defending player that you attacked. If you have any ability that also says that it does damage, even if it's equal to its power, it's still not combat damage because you didn't do it by attacking the defending player and blah blah blah. So in any case, it will rack up actual commander damage on the player you're attacking, and it'll rack up an equivalent amount of damage on the other players, just that it won't kill them at 21, it kills them at 40.
Oh, Jesus. Imagine Vincent with double strike.
Oh my god. I mean, even just put, was it Lizard Blades? Yeah, Lizard Blades, I think, has got to be one of the simplest cards to add to a deck like his. Look at this.
Double strike, equipped creature is double strike, reconfigure, attach to target creature you control or unattach from a creature. Alright, yep, give him the Lizard Blades.
Mm-hmm. Turn 2, you cast Lizard Blades. Turn 3, you cast Vincent. Turn 4, you give Vincent the Lizard Blades. He hits for 3 and then for 4. And, let's see. And then he gets 2 counters on himself that turn. So you're very close to triggering everything with just those 2 cards put together alone. But once again, you can put in a little flyer or something like flying, like that Signal Pest. Any number of little dinky creatures like that are hard to block.
Anything that can evade, really.
Yeah. Other menace creature stuff like that. Or you could just put lots of equipment on this guy, So he has some potential, and yet, being stuck in mono red, I think that he won't be the best commander, might not be the most exciting. Oh, also, did you notice that once again they decided not to tell you what kind of being he is?
That's because
we don't know. He's not a human, he's not a mutant, he's not a robot, he's an assassin, and you don't know what he is beyond that.
Like, we're pretty sure he was born a human, but we don't know what he is now.
And...
Except it greatly resembles a vampire. Also, this guy is the former leader of the Turks.
Okay. But, yeah, this is a point where they could have confirmed what Vincent actually is, because they definitely asked Square, and Square was like, we don't want anyone to know what he is.
You're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
We don't know either.
So, he is still mysterious.
Edgelord.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, one of the few, mono-red assassins, too. So, all that said, and we've said a lot, I want to put him in cool.
Okay.
I still think he's, a little bit below exciting, because you kind of just, put equipment and, evasive creatures and double strike in there. Some things that you're probably going to put in a deck like this anyway. It's probably not going to be terribly creative, but it could be quite effective. Next, though, we have, Yuthi? Yuthi!
Another
Materia
controversial
Hunter.
Character.
Controversial?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lollipop in her hand.
That is a materia. You equip those to cast spells.
It has a ray of light coming out of it that I thought was a stick.
Nope, that is not how you hold a lollipop if that were the case. Also, it's a materia.
I thought she was maybe grabbing it out of the sky or something, but you're totally right.
And besides, her whole deal is that she's a materia thief.
Yeah, it's right there in the name. I should have known. Well, you want to read it?
Yep. 2 red. Ninjutsu. Yay. For 1 red. Return an unblocked attacker you control to your hand. Put this card onto the battlefield from your hand tapped and attacking. Basically, it's the substitution trick. Poof. I'm actually a ninja.
Haha.
When Yuffie enters, gain control of target non-creature artifact for as long as you control Yuffie. Then you may attach an equipment you control to Yuffie.
Yeah. So you can literally mid-combat go, surprise, I was a materia hunter ninja the whole time. Steal your opponent's materia or their soul ring or whatever
Steal
the
their
heck you
stuff.
want.
She's a thief.
But if it's like a, I don't know, sword of light and shadow or fire and ice or something, you can steal that, attach it to her, and then hit people.
My equipment, and I'm gonna hit you with it now.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she's the only red ninja in Magic right now.
Let's look it up.
Oh,
Just to be sure.
okay. Well, if you can talk about her for another minute here.
Sure I can. Part of why she's so controversial is...
Shuriken?
Yes.
She has a shuriken right there.
Yeah? Oh
It
my...
said shuriken. Come on.
Anyway, you see what I have to try to talk through. Anyway, so... Yuffie's a bit controversial as a playable character because part of the deal you have to go through to recruit her is, if I recall correctly, first you have to defeat her without her running off. And then when she joins up with you for a while, and then she steals all of your goddamn materia, which lets you cast stuff. She does give it back, but she doesn't put it back in the spots that you had it in before. She just randomly assigns everybody's materia, so then you have to spend a few minutes going through and putting it back.
I think that's a very funny prank to play on the player.
Not gonna lie, it is, but it also lost her a lot of good graces.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, she seems like the kind of character who is supposed to, like, annoy you a bit.
Yeah, but, you know, not everyone has the patience for that.
Fair. And I didn't know that maybe this is something new to Scryfall. It now says showing the one card, where the type includes ninja and the color includes red.
So, yeah. Yuffie, breaking glass ceilings everywhere.
Uh-huh. Probably with a shuriken.
That's bigger than she is.
Yeah, it's a huge freaking shuriken. Now, how good is she? First off, the ninjutsu ability is pretty broken, except in Commander. So, people probably know about Yuriko the Tiger Shadow, which is the kind of archetypal Commander ninja. But she has Commander ninjutsu, which allows you to do the whole ninjutsu thing, returning an unblocked attacker you control to your hand to put this on the battlefield. But she says from your hand or the command zone.
Oh, so that knocks Yuffie way down for commander stuff. She's not going to be able to use
Yuffie
that.
cannot ninjutsu herself from the command zone. And granted, they have said that Yuriko was a mistake because she gets around the commander attacks with that and is freaking nuts. I actually did see someone attack with Yuriko, have Yuriko killed, and then ninjutsu her back onto the battlefield in the same combat and still hit somebody and trigger her ability. You can do that kind of stuff with Yuriko. You can't do that with Yuffie because you can only ninjutsu her from your hand.
So I guess you'd have to summon her and then somehow have her bounced?
Yeah, if she's your commander, you're going to be hard-pressed to actually do any ninjutsuing. You're going to, like, there's almost no way, there are very few ways, at least, in Red of doing it. Granted, when she enters, you steal an artifact, and that's still kind of neat. But honestly, she, I think, is particularly bad as a commander.
Yeah, she belongs in the 99.
Yeah, in the 99, how good is she? I think she's actually kind of good. Stealing your
I'd say
opponent's
she's pretty
soul
good.
ring or something, or stealing their best, like, sort of fire and ice, sort of feast and famine.
Oh, you have an artifact. Screw you, I'm taking it.
Yeah. So
Or
for that
surprise,
reason,
I'm on the field now. I'm the problem.
I want to put her in questionable, okay? Because she can do some good stuff, but as a commander in particular, she's bad. But so I put her up at least one notch. She's not lame. Hell, even as a commander, she's not terrible. She still steals an artifact, but ugh.
But, it's
It's
not much.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's next?
Who's next is...
Boenhogen!
Oh, is that how you... Okay.
I presume so.
Boenhogen, Wise Elder.
Also known as Red 13's grandpa.
Oh, okay.
This guy explains what the hell the plot is in this story.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, less the plot and more like, Okay, here's how you idiots are going to save the world, and here's why you got to save the world in this particular way.
I've been thinking if there was anything we could do to help a planet already in misery. Want to read it?
All right, that's a 1 green with reach. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, draw a card and you can
Oh.
tap him to add a mana.
Okay, so a human shaman. In the Final Fantasy sets, the shamans seem to usually represent summoners. I don't know if he's a summoner though.
Not really. He's more of a sage or an elder.
Okay.
His role in the story, like I said, is exposition and
Okay.
not much else.
Okay. Well, here he adds mana, and if your creatures be buff, then he draws you a card. Now, he triggers at the beginning of your upkeep, which is going to be a little annoying for almost all of the abilities that we've seen so far that make your creatures bigger. They do it like at the beginning of combat or when they attack or something. And you've got to have that power of 7 creature at the beginning of your turn. That's going to be harder for this deck in particular to do. But a 2 mana 1/3 that taps for any color and has reach and has even the potential upside to draw an additional card is honestly really good. As just a mana dork, who'll protect you against a stray bird or fairy or something like that early on. Um, so I have a Raga Draga deck that plays lots of mana dorks and makes them bigger and stuff. And this guy is going to be incredible in that. I actually will need to buy one for that deck. And I'll probably end up buying like the extended art version as long as it's not $100 like freaking Tifa is or something. He'll probably be cheap because people will probably pay like $100 something for the deck and then pull Tifa from it and get their value. And then Bugenhagen here will be left in the bargain bins, and I'll be like, thank you.
He seems boring but functional.
Now, if he's in the 99, I think that you want to play basically a Power 7 Matters deck. And that can be fun. In fact, that's kind of what this deck is. You might want to upgrade it a bit to get it even more that. If he is your commander, he's wasted a bit because he's making mana of any color, but he can only be in a green deck. And you also can only play the green Power 7 creatures, so some beasties and things. And they can have trample, but you're actually kind of decent at drawing cards off of playing creatures already. This guy's way more helpful in a multicolor deck, and that means in the 99.
Yep.
So I would rank him probably a little better, though. I think I would put him on the low end of cool.
Also, if I recall correctly, this guy has a green sphere instead of feet.
What? What the?
Google image search if you don't believe me.
Huh. Maybe not right this second. But, okay. I'll take your word for it, though. Okay, so that said, we are most of the way through Final Fantasy VII. We're on to... Oh, is that Hojo?
Yup.
Wait, okay, but his name's something like... Is it Professor Hojo?
Yes.
Okay,
His name is
there we go.
First name Professor, last name Hojo. Not really.
Oh.
So, as you can see, this guy is a maniac, and you really shouldn't let him close to anything important.
Okay, gotcha. So he looks like a Dr. Frankenstein kind of guy.
Some people speculate that this guy might be Sephiroth's father. I prefer
Well?
the fan theory that it's actually Vincent. After all, Vincent was in love with his mom.
Okay. Well, want to read them?
Alright, that's 1 green. The first activated ability you activate during your turn that targets a creature you control costs 2 less to activate. Yes, experiment on the things! Whenever one or more creatures you control becomes the target of an activated ability, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn.
Okay, so starting from the vanilla test here, even despite being a human scientist, he has the stats of a grizzly bear. A 2-mana 2/2. But then, okay, activated abilities done during your turn that target your own creatures cost 2 less? What the heck do people... What are we referring to here?
This guy seems very specific, and unless you have specific cards in mind, I imagine it's not really...
Well, I guess, like, equipment would count for that. That you can do an equip cost for 2 less. Yeah, because it's during your turn, and they're usually colorless, and it targets a creature you control. So, okay, he can pick up equipment really good, or help your other creatures pick up equipment really good.
I
So
guess
that's
that makes
useful.
sense. If it
And
were me, I would have given him blue and green because look at this guy. He's like Simic personified.
yeah, but this the Final Fantasy VII deck is a Naya deck, so they had to come up with versions of each of these characters that would fit into those colors,
Fair enough.
as we will see with Sephiroth. Um,
Boy, will that be fun.
So, whenever one or more creatures you control become the target of a spell or ability, draw a card. So, once again, this seems like the best way of doing it is going to be like equipment that have an equip cost of 2. So now you can equip for 0, and the first time that you do it, you draw a card. That's starting to seem kind of good. Could this be a mono green equipment deck?
Huh.
That would be. Wait, okay, wait a second. The first activated ability you activate that targets a cost 2 less. Okay, so you can't just keep moving them around for free. Um, I gotta say, this feels questionable to me.
Yeah, you might be able to do some interesting things with it, but it would take some doing.
Yeah, like, what if you filled a deck full of equipment that had 2 as the equip cost? You could equip 1 for free every turn and draw a card. That seems great, except it's just 1 for free every turn, and it's just 1 card, and then he's got no abilities, so you want to put, like, Shadow Spears on him and stuff. So, I kind of want to put him in questionable.
Yeah, I think that's where he belongs. He's
Mm-hmm.
already pretty questionable to begin with.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, finally, we have gotten to Aerith.
Everybody withhold your wails of despair.
Aerith Last Ancient is a legendary creature, human cleric druid.
Yep,
You
that
want to do the
scans.
rest?
Lifelink and raise. Oh dear God, that was just painful to the fans. This is mockery, people. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If you gain 7 or more life this turn, return that card to the battlefield instead.
Okay,
Okay,
so
wow, taunt people, why don't you?
so she's 4 mana for a 3/5 with lifelink. So does this pass the vanilla test?
No.
Yes.
Yes? Yes.
Because a 4 mana 4/4 would be a pass. So if you subtract 1 from the power, add 1 to the toughness, that's the same total. And I'd say that still passes.
All right.
And then on top of that, she's got lifelink. And then on top of that, she's got the ability to resurrect a creature, or more like raise dead a creature every turn as long as you've gained life. And if you're playing green and white and she's got lifelink, you're gaining life whenever you want.
Yep.
So, but then the trick is to gain 7 or more, and that's when you get to not just raise dead, but resurrect, straight back to the battlefield. So, the challenge then is how do you gain 7 or more each turn, and what do you have coming back from the grave that you want to do it every turn, like dying and coming back, dying and coming back? In white green, I don't know, but it will likely be scary. It will likely be huge. It will likely be powerful. And so I think what we have on our hands here is actually a life gain deck with a way to win the game that isn't Test of Endurance or Felidar Sovereign.
Huh. Interesting.
Have you heard of Felidar Sovereign?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, still, I'm going to bring it up for the class. Felidar Sovereign is one of the more common win conditions for life gain decks, because you just have the amount of life that you started with at the turn after this comes out, and you win.
This guy looks like he could be Red 13's cousin.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get
On
to him
Zendikar.
later.
Now, I know that a lot of players in Casual Commander really don't like cards that say you win the game. However,
They don't?
well, no, because they're kind of like a infinite combo in a way, in that it doesn't matter how the rest of the game went. You win. It's over.
I actually see it as a lifeline for newer players.
Okay. Well, I know at least a few people who won't play cards that say you win the game in them for this reason, but this is one I would make an exception on, because I think there's a lot of gameplay here. Like, it's a creature, so it can die to a lot of things. It's got vigilance and lifelink, so it's gonna, like, rumble. By the time that you've got 6 or 7 mana, you probably don't have 40 life anymore, or if you do, it's because you've been taking steps to gain some back. And your opponents will see it coming. They'll have at least a turn to do something about it, either damage you or kill the thing. And by the end of it, I think it creates like kind of a climax to a life gain deck that otherwise might not kill people. Aerith solves some of the same problems, and I would 100% put a Feldar Sovereign into an Aerith deck, and it would be a really good thing to raise, because then, I was just saying, they can always kill the Feldar Sovereign, and then you don't win, unless Aerith's around and she brings it back, and then you do still. But all that said, I think that this is one of the most exciting green-white life gain commanders ever.
I agree.
And it should synergize really well with what green and white does. Even though life gain decks do not tend to be exciting, I think that she is an exciting one.
Also, if she found her way to Ravnica, again, Selesnya would scope her out.
Oh, 100%. She's so on vibe with them. Next, we have Red 13, Proud Warrior.
And Sulky Teenager.
Oh, yeah? Is that how it is?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Alright, that's a 1 red-green for a Vigilance Trample. Other modified creatures you control have Vigilance and Trample. So that's if they've got equipment, auras, and counters.
Okay.
Cosmo Memory. When Red 13 enters, return target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. So not only is he going to grant that Vigilance and Trample, he's going to make sure that you get the opportunity to give your creatures that Vigilance and Trample. This guy wants to lead an army.
Yeah. And I said before that a commander that has an enters trigger that only happens the one time, like, that doesn't make them good. And that's still the case here, even though the opposite was true for a long time, that if a creature didn't do something when it entered the battlefield, then it just dies to removal and you've gained nothing. But this, it doesn't just have an enters trigger. It has Vigilance and Trample on a 3/3 body for 3, which makes it a solid rumbler to put things on. A really good rumbler to put things on. But the biggest thing here is the other modified creatures you control have Vigilance and Trample. That's huge.
Gear up, we're going to war.
So I would say this card is reminding me a lot of Dogmeat, strangely enough. Trust me, this should be fine. Dogmeat from Fallout.
That's just his name.
Is red, green, and white for a 3/3, so a 3-mana 3/3 dog. When he enters, you mill 5 cards, then return an aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. And whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped, basically modified but doesn't count counters, you create a junk token. And the junk token can be sacrificed to, like, exile a card and play it this turn. So Dogmeat and Red 13 are very similar. The difference is Dogmeat doesn't buff the other creatures that you control necessarily, and Red 13 does.
He's a lot more social than Dogmeat.
Red 13 also has Vigilance and Trample built in, and still has the same power and toughness. I'd say that these two are kind of on par with each other. And getting back an aura is particularly good because auras fall off when the creature dies, equipment doesn't.
I'd give the edge to Red 13 for being able to pass Vigilance and Trample on to others.
Yeah, I mean, adding white to it is really good. Making those junk tokens is pretty good, but Dogmeat is also considered a quite good commander. So personally, I'm putting Red 13 in exciting.
All right, what does it say about us that the only people in exciting are the waifus and the cat?
Which also, that's another little point there. They wrote Beast. Is he some kind of, like, mountain lion? Is he some kind of wolf? No, he is a beast, which in Magic is a term for a kind of animal that isn't easily boiled down to one kind of creature type or another.
He's an anime lion.
And there are some beast tribal kind of kindred synergies out there that he would go along with. So he's among good company.
He's a beast lion.
Mm-hmm. That said, I think we finally got to our real antagonist.
Oh, yes.
It's Sephiroth, fallen hero. You want to read him?
3. Red-white. Genova cells. Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may put a cell counter on a target creature. Until end of turn, each modified creature you control has base power and toughness 7/5. Equipment or as you control encounters are modifications.
Mm-hmm.
That would include the cells.
Yep.
And the reunion. For 3, you sacrifice a modified creature, and then you return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. All of this is a reference to how Sephiroth can just kind of pop up all over the place. Basically, he can kind of take over people who have Genova cells in them.
Okay, so
That's why they turn into, his base power and toughness.
is that what happened in Advent Children? How there were those 3 silver-haired losers who were clearly like worshiping Sephiroth, and then one of them like fulfilled the prophecy and resurrected Sephiroth?
Yep, that was Sephiroth taking over Kadaj.
Okay, so that's basically the reunion. In fact, that's pretty much the plot of Advent Children, is that these 3 Genova-celled characters are trying to start the reunion that'll bring back Sephiroth, and then they do it, so that Sephiroth can do a cool fight.
It was a cool fight, I give it that.
It was a very cool fight. So whenever he attacks, you put a cell counter on a creature. So importantly, it triggers repeatedly. You can put it on a creature you control or a creature an opponent controls. And then, so when he attacks, he turns all the modified creatures you control into 7/5s. So, would you want to put cell counters on creatures you don't control? Maybe not. But you could. You can. I don't know why, but you can.
I guess if you're anticipating stealing it.
Now, in this deck, we've seen so many synergies with like creatures with power 7. And he is that, and he makes your other creatures into that. Not to mention, remember the vanilla test, a 5-mana 5/5 would be good? What the hell?
Yep.
He's a 7/5 that makes other creatures into 7/5s and can resurrect himself by sacking a creature for 3. And you're gonna have a Genova cell or 2 lying around, an equipment, an aura, or something laying on somebody that you can turn back into Sephiroth and make more. Honestly, by the way, you can also resurrect him at instant speed. So, like, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can reanimate him and then still swing again on your turn and put more cells out there. This guy seems pretty incredible.
Yes.
Oh, not to mention,
and to borrow,
what kind of creatures are you putting this on? Maybe it's like a Sky Hunter or something?
Also, I don't think we need to answer Maldhound's question here.
Oh, can he get it?
Come on.
Come on.
You don't need us for this. You don't need anyone to tell you whether he can get it or not.
There's like 3 cards that are kind of this. That's
a Cat Knight?
Yeah, it's a Cat Knight. It's real small. Right there is the cat. Yeah, there's a kitty right in there.
Oh my god, there's a kitty. A little teeny tiny kitty.
Other art for it?
Can we just like zoom in for a bit?
There's a kitty.
Little tiny kitty. It looks like a little cat person rather than a kitty, but yes. I'll count it.
It's they're Leonin from Mirrodin.
Little kitty.
But in any case, a 1/1 flying double strike, right? Mm-hmm. And then you make it a 7/5.
Yeah.
Ah! So it's gonna hit you for 14 flying. On turn 5 at worst, probably 4, because you probably played a Signet, Felwar Stone, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, anything like that to get to it. Honestly, is it any surprise that Sephiroth is exciting?
Yep. Like, who can argue?
Like, who would have expected that they'd make a Sephiroth that wasn't black, but he'd still be awesome?
Honestly, this is Sephiroth we're talking about. It's kind of expected. And boy, if you weren't hearing the boss music at seeing him, you sure will after reading that effect.
Oh, and he's pre-ordering for $100 for the extended art version.
Surprising no one.
Uh, Pre-order prices are going to be kind of ridiculous. Don't trust pre-order prices. No one has actually paid this yet necessarily, and if they have, they're a sucker. The decks will come out and they'll be expensive, but they won't be that expensive. And if you just want one card, you can get one card. Good, God save you if you want more than one. um, but yeah, this guy's awesome. And then we're on to our last one from Final Fantasy VII, the leader of Avalanche, Barret. You want to read him for us?
2 red-green reach. Avalanche! Whenever an equipment you control enters, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token. At the beginning of each combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target rebel you control. Suit up, everybody. He's a recruiter, and so we've got a recruiter and our suitor.
So he's a 4-mana 4/4, so passes the vanilla test. He's got reach, which, by the way, I haven't mentioned with the vanilla test that 2 different colors are slightly harder to cast, and so you would expect them to be a little bit stronger for being 2 different colors, and he is. That he's got the reach on top of that. Whenever an equipment you control enters, you make a rebel. That is awesome. Once again, I originally thought that this was the only representation that the rest of Avalanche was going to get, and honestly, this is still fine. I would have been happy with this, because making all these rebels, and then there they are in the art, that's great. And then at the beginning of combat, you can attach an equipment to a rebel. So honestly, your deck, it could play a little bit of rebel synergies if you can find any, but you could just play a deck with him and then like 20 frickin' equipment, and he'll make the rebels and he'll attach them for free, and now you've got an army of dudes carrying a wrench here and a knife there and a shield and random dudes all over the place. But they're all holding something that makes them cool.
I see they've given Barret a shave.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
you had a beard.
Huh. Well, since we've zoomed in a minute ago,
It looks like he might have some shadow there,
maybe.
but he used to have like a big poofy beard.
Hard to tell. I also know that different cards in this set are going to represent these characters sometimes at different points in their story. So I believe there is a main set Barret in addition to this commander deck Barret, and they may look a little different.
I guess. But, I mean, I'm good with it either way. I mean, original Barret basically looks like Mr. T.
Yeah. Also, I think it's kind of a flavor win for him to have reach. In
Well,
that
yeah,
it's
that's
a
what the
way
gun arm is for.
Exactly. It's a way to explain what his gun arm does. Even if a creature is coming at you with flying, he can still shoot it out of the sky. So I think this is very cool. In fact, I would go as far as to say I think he's exciting.
Barret is such a cool character. He
Yeah.
may be a bit of a stereotype, but I love this guy, and I love that he's a great guy, okay? And he's a wonderful father.
Oh, yeah.
Again, this guy is marriage material.
So, I think this is where the Final Fantasy VII Commander deck Legendary Creatures shake out, primarily from the point of view of them being commanders, in which case, unfortunately, only she ends up being truly lame, although Yuthi comes close. The others here, I think, could have some use. These ones are pretty good. You should be happy if you're playing any of these, but these ones are the sickest, if you ask me. Even Aerith, even in a life gain deck, I think that you're making one of the coolest life gain decks ever. So that's how Final Fantasy VII breaks down, and because we've already recorded the Final Fantasy VI one, I'd just like to compare them real quick. We have 5 in the top tier, 5 in the second, then 4, then 1. And from Final Fantasy VI, we did 5 in the top tier, 7 in the second tier, then 4, then 3. So first off, there's more legendary creatures in this deck than there is in the next one. But also, the average commander in this deck certainly came out to more cool, whereas this one was skewing right on the line that there's a lot of more exciting ones up here.
So, here's a question.
Actually, the same number of exciting ones, but a higher percentage.
Between all of the exciting ones we've looked at so far, which one are you most excited to make a deck about?
You know, I'm a little bit torn because on the one hand, a life gain. I don't have a life gain deck right now, and trying to do one with Aerith would be one of the more interesting life gain decks you could do. But I'm more likely to play either Red 13 because I like the like go wide with auras and equipment kind of thing, or Sephiroth has a fairly unique ability of turning creatures into 7/5s that'll encourage you to play like little dinky creatures that have cool abilities. And so I think I'm going to land on Sephiroth.
I think I'm also going to land on Sephiroth because
Oh,
I
wow.
guess my inner Bishonen fan is showing, and not to mention a little bit of my supervillain.
Okay,
But
okay.
ultimately, I am still leaning towards Kefka and Shadow
Oh,
because I still
okay.
want to throw a dog at people.
Yeah, and I'm Kafka is probably my second. So, is it weird that so far our favorite legendary creatures in these sets are the supervillains?
Well, to be fair, these two are the most iconic villains in Final Fantasy. I mean, not saying
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
saying
so.
that your favorite isn't good, but come on. You know these two. You know
Yeah.
Kefka because he's colorful, you know Sephiroth because he made you cry that one time, and also he's hot.
Yeah. Um, and also, in the lore, each of these characters should be able to take on most of the others at the same time.
Yeah.
And while that may not be literally true in Magic the Gathering, it could be true at your local game store, at your table, if you build your deck right. And I may try with Sephiroth here. So, with that said, I think we're going to wrap up the second part of our Final Fantasy Commander deck reviews and tier list. Look forward to Final Fantasy X and 14 coming soon.
Neither of which I've played, so I will not be able to help you with those.
Well, we won't know any of the lore, but we'll still be able to analyze them and put them in a tier list, and maybe judge them based on, the cover of that book. So, that said, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye bye!
Bye.